So, who can recap what we read about yesterday? Who remembers what we read the first 4 chapters yesterday about Tehya, a little girl. She lives on a Native American reservation in Washington State with her family, and she and her friend Sam were down by the riverbank. And what happened, Garrett?
And Tehya was going to take a picture, and then she noticed that the water had oil in it, and then
Where are they at? I think I know.
They're around the corner on the 6th grade hall.
Oh, that one, yeah. Then they called the Indian Reservation Council.
The Grand Council.
So then they started working trying to fix the solution.
Good. So yeah, she had a journal from her grandmother that she was reading by the riverbank. Her grandmother's passed away, and so it's a way for her to kind of stay connected to her. And she was trying to match up the sketches in her grandmother's journal and go take pictures of the same area on the riverbank to see if there have been any changes in the last 50 years. Yes, to honor her spirit, right? Because that's part of their culture, their Native American culture. So she was doing that, saw oil in the water, knew that it wasn't supposed to be there. She got very concerned for the plants and the animals and the ecosystem along the riverbank. So she went and told her mom, who informed the Grand Council. So they got a lot of engineers and volunteers down to the riverbank to try to figure out, number 1, how to contain the oil, and number 2, how to clean up the oil. And so they were working through the engineering design process to do that. So when we last left off, she had written her grandmother a journal entry just talking about how she and Sam were able to help by washing some of the animals off with a soapy solution that had gotten stuck in the oil, and things like that. So we're going to pick up with chapter 5 and hopefully finish this up today. It's called A Kitchen Oil Spill. As I closed my journal, Mama arrived home from work. She sat next to me on the edge of the driveway. "You've been doing so much work these past few days, Tehya," she said, giving my shoulders a squeeze. "Does it feel good to help?" "Yes, but not good enough. I'm worried," I said. Mama nodded. "I know, we all are, but you're trying to really make a difference," she said. "Thomas stopped by this morning and told me so. This oil spill is a horrible thing, but I'm really proud of the way you've responded." "Thanks, Mama," I said. "I am glad that Sam and I are able to help. I just keep thinking, I wish I knew more about how the cleanup process actually works. If I understood it better, maybe I could think of more areas of the river we might need to protect." "Well, have you asked Thomas about it?" Mama asked. "No," I said. "I didn't want to bother him. He's so busy. All the environmental engineers and volunteers are." We were both quiet for a few moments. Then Mama said, "I've got an idea. Why don't we try cleaning up an oil spill ourselves?" I frowned. "I don't know, Mama. Thomas said it can be dangerous to try to cleaning up an oil spill if you don't have the right training." "Yes, and he's right, but I'm not thinking of the oil spill in the river," Mama explained. "I'm thinking of a much smaller oil spill, like the one in our kitchen. Come on." I followed Mama into the kitchen. She took a bowl out of the cupboard and filled it with water. "Can you get me the cooking oil?" I pulled the bottle down from the shelf and handed it to her. "Look, it's a model," Mama said. "The bowl of water models the river, and the cooking oil models the oil that was spilled. See?" She poured a spoonful of oil into the bowl. "Wow, it is like the oil on the river," I said. "Look at how it floats to the top of the water." "Right," Mama agreed, "but in the river, currents would make the water move." "Kind of like this," I said, lightly shaking the bowl. "Exactly," Mama said. "So should we try to clean it up? How do you think we should start?" I said. "I remember Thomas telling us that you need to ask good questions to come up with a good process for cleaning up the oil spill." Thomas said asking questions is the first step of the engineering design process. Mama and I asked about how well different materials work to contain and remove the oil. Then we imagined more materials and new ways to use the materials. We made a plan for combining materials and testing them out. Then when we changed the order of how we were using the materials to try to improve our cleanup design. So this is what you guys are going to be doing in a lab in the next couple of weeks, what they're doing in her kitchen. pretty well, I said, after we'd improved our design a few times, but there were still a few tiny drops of oil in the water. It seems like it's impossible to remove all the oil from the water. I think that's why the work you're doing with Thomas is so difficult, Mama said. Once the oil has been spilled, it's not easy to clean up. The next day, before Sam and I went down to the river, I brought Sam into the kitchen and showed him what I'd learned about cleaning up oil spills from the test I did with Mama. I pulled out my journal. I found the page with the photo of the eagle catching the fish. Now that we've done some testing, I think I understand the technologies they are worried about. Thomas said it was important to think about the whole ecosystem, all the land and water and plants and animals in the area. Right, Sam said. Remember the other day when you were wondering if the fish in the river and the birds that eat the fish would be okay? It reminded me of the food webs we learned about in school. Organisms get energy by eating other organisms or plants. So if the fish get sick from the oil spill, the birds that eat fish could also become sick. I nodded. But lots of other animals use the river for food and water, Sam continued. Can they be hurt too? I think so, I said. There are the bears that eat the fish and the deer that drink the water. And there are all the plants growing in and on the sides of the river. Animals eat those plants too. I paused and thought for a few moments. I don't know, maybe we're overreacting. No, Tehya, I don't think you are, Mama said as she walked into the kitchen. You're absolutely right. We can't look at the animals and plants that live around us as single organisms. Everything in the ecosystem is connected, and not just because of the food web. The animals also rely on the river for water and shelter, and the rocks and trees too. Right, Sam said. Everything is connected to everything else. It's just like the ancient Clayland stories that have been passed down to us. The oil spill is one event that polluted the river, I said, but it's affecting so much more than the water in the river. It affects plants and animals and the entire ecosystem. Mama gave me a big hug. I'm glad you're able to understand how everything is connected. As Clayland, those connections are an important part of who you are. And I think you're doing a great job sharing your knowledge with the other people who are working to clean up the oil spill. I just wish I could share more, I said. I think I know a way you could share more, Mama said, with this. She tapped my journal with her index finger. Share your pictures, Tehya. I think you have a lot to say with your pictures. So she's really trying to figure this out and figure out how the best way to clean up an oil spill. So they simulated that using a model in her kitchen. And she figured out it's not so easy, right? Even with all the tools and different things and going back and trying something else and improving your design, it's once the oil is there, it's really, really, really hard to clean up.
You probably gonna be a pilot.
Probably, because she's already got that kind of mindset.
Or an engineer.
Or an engineer. All right, chapter 6. This is a journal entry to her grandmother. Dear Grandma, surprise, how do you like this new journal? Mama gave it to me today. I can't believe I already filled up the first one. It's because I was taking so many pictures of the oil spill cleanup. I'm glad I recorded everything. My pictures tell the story of what happened. They start with the eagle grabbing the salmon, then onto the oil covering the water, rocks, and plants. But then come the pictures showing the solution. There's Thomas looking over the map with the elders. There are the booms that contain the oil and the machines that remove some of it. If you're wondering what a boom is, it's this thing right here.
I saw it on
It's kind of containing it, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So when we do this in class, you'll have something that will simulate a boom like that you'll use to contain that oil. There are pictures of Sam mixing the soapy water and volunteers washing the duck's feathers and the muskrat's fur. Those pictures remind me of how Sam and I helped. Even though a lot of the oil is gone, I know the problems haven't disappeared. Thomas told me that some of his biologist friends have been observing the animals in the ecosystem. If many of the salmon have died, fewer will return home to the river to lay their eggs. Fewer salmon mean there will be less food for some of the other animals. I read in your journal that when you were little, there were so many salmon that the river looked like silver when they swam upstream. Will we ever get back to that? Or have we caused so many problems that it will never be the same? So she's worried about the salmon population coming back after so many were killed by the oil. All right, here's another journal entry, chapter 7. Dear Grandma, I found your last two spots. Today I was walking near the dam to see the progress they've made taking it down. And I saw the place where you must have been when you drew the picture of the open field. I could tell it was the right spot by the way the trees were arranged. While I was there, a deer walked through. That's when I took the picture. Then I found the pond from your last drawing. Even though I found all your spots, I'm not going to stop taking pictures. I'll find my own special scenes to put in my journal. The tribe's canoe journey is coming up soon. Sam and I are so excited. This year we're going to Suquamish. Mama told me that you used to travel by canoe to go fishing in the harbor. Can you believe I'll get to go on a real canoe journey? I'll be sure to take lots of pictures to write to you along the way. So she's finally finished her journal entries. Oh, it didn't show those, did they? It didn't show. I'll show it to you in the book. So here's where she found the deer. And then, what was the other spot?
The river.
Just the river.
The pond.
Yeah. So that's where she found those. So she finally completed her photo journal, found all the spots that her grandmother had sketched. And now she's got a canoe journey event coming up. Chapter 8. Once we were close enough to see the shore, everyone in the canoe began to sing to let those on shore know we were coming. We pulled the paddles in unison, coming to rest at a spot in the water off the beach. The hot sun bounced off the water and I had to squint my eyes. Looking toward the shore, I could see people sitting on beach blankets, setting food on tables, and playing games. Canoes that had arrived in front of us were lined up along the beach. Paddles up, Uncle called to us. He raised his paddle in the air so that it was waving to the people on the beach. We all mimicked his motions. He called a Clallam greeting to the people on the beach and asked permission to come in. I could see an elder waving us ashore. That sounds like fun. Have you ever been canoeing or kayaking or anything like that? Yeah, that's really fun to do. So,
I flipped over.
yeah, that happens. Okay, Uncle said, paddles in, all reverse. Following Uncle's commands, we began backing the canoe up to the shore. Sam and I helped to pick the canoe up out of the water onto the gravelly beach above the tide line. I could already smell the salty clams roasting over the fire and the smoky tang of salmon carried by the wind. I saw Sam wander off toward the big picnic tables loaded with food. I reached into my bag, feeling around for my journal so I could tell Grandma exactly what this moment felt like. I was finishing up my entry when I heard Sam call my name. Tehya, he said, come look at this. As I walked toward Sam, I buffed the lens of my camera and adjusted some of the settings so that I'd be able to get the light just right. Instead of taking new pictures, Sam said, why don't you take a look at some of the ones you've already taken? What are you talking about? I asked, looking up at him, and then I saw it, my pictures. They were set up on easels all around the picnic tables in poster-sized prints. I stared blankly from one picture to the other, not sure what to say. Mama's hand on my shoulder brought me back to life. Why are my pictures here? I asked. Did you do this? Thomas stepped forward from where he stood with his family. Tehya, the elders agreed that we should thank you for all your help with the oil spill. But more than helping with the spill, you have given us a wonderful gift. The amazing pictures that you've taken of the parts of our community. Our people, the animals, the plants, the earth, and the air on which we all rely. You have honored your grandmother and all of us by capturing this beauty and sharing it with all of us. Thank you so much, Thomas, I said. There's no need to thank me, Thomas said. Without you and Sam, we wouldn't have been able to do nearly as good a job cleaning the oil spill in the river. Nah, Sam said. We just helped a little bit. You helped more than you realize, Thomas said. You reminded me and the other engineers about the connections among everything in the ecosystem, among the river and the plants and animals, the connections between things in the environment that help people either nurture or destroy. And you created your own connections, too, between people working together. We needed you both to remind us of all those things. Thanks, Thomas, I said. I'm glad we could help. We learned a lot, too, and got to see some new things. I'm glad too, Thomas said. Now, take some time to admire the photos. Sam and I looked at each of the photos, then I started taking pictures to remember the canoe journey. First, I took some photos of the elders sitting around the fire talking. I knew the red and orange colors of their capes would make a great picture. Then I took pictures of the little kids running around playing. Grandma will like these, I thought. Hey, I said to Sam, I have to show you the photos I took of Grandma's last spots. Rummaging in my bag, I found Grandma's journal and opened it to the last page. See, I said, that's it. Sam nodded. You're right. Last one. Now you're all done. All done with the pictures in Grandma's journal, I corrected him, but definitely not all done taking pictures of the land and the plants and the animals and the Elwha River. The end. Alright, so there was a happy conclusion. We don't know how much time went by and how long it took them to clean up the oil, but it usually is a very long process and it takes a while. I know the BP oil spill, they were cleaning that up even years later. Okay. So in the next few weeks, we're going to be cleaning up a model oil spill. We'll also talk about ecosystems and how everything is interconnected, making food webs, different things like that. So we have some really fun labs coming up. But in the meantime, let me pull up my science page. Alright, you're going to work on some vocabulary from the book that we learned about. Yeah, they're right here. Okay, so you're going to define these in your notebook, and I actually still have your notebooks from when I graded them before Christmas. If you're curious about the grade that you got, it'll be on page 12 in your notebook. And so these words are going to go on page 13 in your notebook. Remember, don't skip pages. Some of you skip pages. Don't skip pages. Okay, we use the front and back of each sheet. And so after page 12, you'll just number it 13, and you're going to put these words on page 13. There's only 8 of them. So you've got ecosystem, environmental engineer, food web. We haven't gotten to what these are, but we've got a lab coming up in Monday where these words will become important to you. Acid, base, neutral, pH, and pollution. Okay? So all of these are going to be defined right here in that PowerPoint. You'll just click that link, pull up the PowerPoint, and then just copy each word and the definition on page 13 in your notebook. Okay? Cooper, you and who's number 4? Peyton, you guys can pass those out when you get your notebook. You can go ahead and get started, but you can go ahead and be pulling this back so you